Happy Devil's Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 46, titled Empty Arena, ? I am your host, Sam Wu, coming to you live from somewhere in beautiful New Jersey, about to head down to Florida to meet my good friend who's down there, the Pucks and Pitchforks editor-in-chief, Nick Villano, down in Tampa. Nick, this is going to be a very interesting podcast tonight. It's all weighing on our minds. Before we get Garrett Clinton on from the Hockey News a little bit later, I think a lot of us Devils fans, but just more than Devils fans, I think we're all a little bit concerned about what's been going on. And recently in the news, I'm sure you all know, and now we're facing empty arenas. And I'd like you to start off this topic, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, it just came out probably minutes ago. Adrian Wojnarowski with ESPN talking about the NBA. The NBA Board of Governors came together, and it seems like most owners are on board with playing to empty arenas. So it seems like the three options on the board for the NBA was playing to an empty arena, postponing the season and moving it back a month or two until they kind of figure out this whatever this is, this sickness. And then there was the status quo. And Sam, I'm gonna let you guess. I'm gonna let you guess which is the one team that kind of wanted to go with the status quo.
In the NHL?
NBA.
NBA? The New York Knicks?
The New York Knicks were the one team that wanted to just be like, let's just kind of keep it how it is until they tell us not to. But I don't want to give my opinion on this. I've been told by various sources of my employment not to give my opinion on this, so I'm going to just keep it kind of clean in a way. I am behind the empty arenas. I'll just say that. I think that it's, I'm all for if you could save lives, no matter what it is, you got to put things on hold to save lives. So, we don't know what this is, and that's what I think, Sam. I think that the NHL is going to make the decision. They're not going to want to lose money, and this is going to lose a lot of money. And I'll just kind of go into the facts of it. So this is going to have wide-ranging problems. The number one thing is if this leads into the playoffs. If for some reason they can't let people into the gate into the playoffs, this is going to impact the salary cap. This is probably going to impact the salary cap as it is, but it's going to really impact the salary cap because the salary cap relies a lot on the playoff gate. They already got the money they're going to get from the TV contracts. I think it was last week they predicted that it was going to be between 84 and 88 million. I think it might go lower than it was this season if they lose some of that playoff gate, even if it's just the first round. I could see it going to 80, $79 million for the salary cap. So that's one impact. Two, I know a lot of the media members are worried about the precedence it sets, whether they're going to never get their locker room access back. I don't know if this is the time and the place for that to happen. I understand their concern and understand that bringing it to the forefront will make sure it doesn't happen. I don't see that, us losing those locker room interviews that, in situations like this, I'm okay with them not doing them because, take all precautions no matter what the situation is to keep everybody safe. I mean, listen, the Utah Jazz game is postponed right now because Rudy Gobert is sick. And we just don't know what anybody has right now. And I'm listening to other people talk, and I'm listening to other people discuss how this is making them feel. Like people, go to the airport. If you hear somebody cough, like you look at like a pariah. And if you're at an arena, and I've heard people go to arenas, and when they cough, or if they have somebody cough around them, like you're looking around like, oh my God. And like, it's crazy out there because it's not about you. You could be washing your hands, you could be doing the right thing, but like you could make one mistake, like high five somebody, and it's over. And you get sick, and then you can get sick, and then you could just be around, say, a sick kid, and then just like that kid's sick, and then that's the one with the immune system that's in flux. And that's the thing we have to worry about, is because it's not about you. I'm a healthy, American male, and I don't get sick very often. But the problem is that since I don't get sick very often, if I did carry this virus, it would take a long time for me to know. And that means it would take a long time for you to know. It would take a long time for everybody else to know. And if I spread this unbeknownst to me, and I go to an arena, I have a lot on the line here, because I'm going, like, I had tickets to the NCAA tournament. I have tickets to WrestleMania. I have tickets to a lot of things that I'm very much looking forward to, but I'm not willing to be the guy that, carries this COVID-19 on accident. So that's just kind of how I try to stick to the facts there. The facts is that it's spreading in New Jersey, it's spreading in Florida, it's spreading in, other parts of the country that have hockey teams. So if that's what they want to do, then I see where they're coming from on it.
Yeah, I'll in full disclosure, after this podcast, I'm actually heading down to Florida. We've announced last 3 or 4 weeks on this podcast and the other Sunday night flagship podcast, Let's Go Devils podcast, that you and I are actually doing a Florida tour this weekend. Devils at the Florida Panthers at Sunrise, March 14th and the 15th in Tampa. And when news was starting to break out last, few days, starting with the San Jose Sharks, I believe the Columbus Blue Jackets, if I thought I saw it on the wire somewhere, that they're playing in empty arenas as well.
Yep, that came out today.
Okay. For the first few minutes, I kind of got pissed off because, Nick, I worked 9 months to put this thing together. And there's a very, very good possibility that I'll be driving down to Florida in the next couple of days, and potentially these games could be empty arenas, which will kind of derail a lot of our plans, you and I and our audience. And that I was a little pissed off. I'll admit that. But then I started to think about it took a step back, and I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? If it saves, it's like what you said before, if it saves one life, potentially hundreds or thousands, you just don't know. Because to be honest, sitting here right now, we really don't know what we're dealing with. But abundance of precaution. I mean, you and I, because I even thought about what are our contingency plans. Now, I did talk to a colleague of mine that works at a radio station, and the past month, everybody's been, getting the flu. And one thing about
scary.
working in radio, is that you all have to come into the studio, whereas this podcast and podcasts, we work remotely, so we're kind of isolated. But we don't have to go to work, and do this podcast. We're doing it from the confines of our own homes usually, so we're very lucky in that respect. And I thought to myself, that's got to suck, because if you've got many employees out at once, or it's in the back of your mind, even though in this case it's not the coronavirus. I think we're very fortunate enough to, if that happens this weekend, I'm not going to be that sad. We'll do it from the confines of our own homes. We'll make it up somehow, because we have some great guests lined up this weekend. And if the guests have to cancel for a variety of reasons, we're not going to hold it against them. This is uncharted territory for sports, for this country and this world. Right now the president is he's doing a speech on it right now as we're speaking. So it's obviously a serious issue, and again, I'm not going to speculate is it being overblown or whatever. What I care about right now is we don't know what we're dealing with, and we should respect what the league does, what the teams do, and go with it. Hopefully this will just make its way out, and hopefully we don't have to ever deal with it. But for now, we're going to have to take precaution and kind of alter our plans a little bit, because the last thing we want, and this is the number one thing that Beer Baron and Shorts Guy and I and even Scotty is health comes first. I mean, there are times where Beer Baron would be sick or I would be sick, and it's just like take a day off on the podcast. Do what you need to do. We're not going to question it. So that's. That was my take, on that, Nick. And it's just like, it's good that, at least behind the scenes on the Let's Go Devils podcast and State of the Fan Address, that, we have our priorities straight,
Yeah.
with all this.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, I'm seeing some things that kind of make me lose a little bit of faith in humanity. Like I just saw a fake account reporting on the coronavirus as if Rudy Gobert had it on Twitter, and come on, I hate fake accounts as it is, but this is serious. This is sure, it's annoying to see somebody say that Kyle Palmieri got traded for 2 bananas and a ostrich to Boston, but this is serious, people. Don't do this fake account. Don't there's people are dying. That's the point. So just kind of let's keep the jokes to the side until we figure out what this is. Let's all just kind of take a deep breath, kind of look around, and kind of just let's wait for the smart people in the room to tell us what we should do.
Yeah, and but for now, as far as I know, everything is going according to plans for this weekend. So. On Saturday, we will be tentatively be at the Bahama Breeze at sunrise for a pregame podcast. We're going to have a special guest coming out. We talked about it last couple times. Chico Resch is coming out, and March 15th, Tampa. We're not. It's right now. It's tentatively scheduled. Just waiting for confirmation from the Tampa Bay Lightning. But we're going to be at Amalie Arena at Thunder Alley, or we should say Ford's Thunder Alley, because I see that in the emails. Believe it or not, and this was not planned by me. It was just a matter of spacing. We're going to actually be at the Corona Cantina next to the Bone restaurant and whatnot at Thunder Alley. I'm sorry, Ford's Thunder Alley outside of Amalie Arena. Anyway, for now, I'm going to get Jared Clinton on the phone. Why don't you talk to Facebook Live, Nick?
Sure. Sorry, I'm reading a thing on Deadline. I don't know if this is real. I don't know if I should say this, but okay, I'm not gonna say it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Facebook Live. I'm sorry, Twitter Live. I'm sorry, everybody, because I just don't want to be the person that's spreading rumors about things. I don't know if this is a real article or not, but it says that a very, very famous celebrity might have the sickness, but I don't know if it's true, because that. All right, sorry, my mind got blown by that. Let's talk about Binghamton real quick. Let's talk about hockey for a second. This is a hockey podcast. Binghamton is up right now 4-2 last time I checked. I can't believe how much higher this team is. They are in a playoff spot. They were in last place in December, and this team is in a playoff spot. I gotta hand. I mean, we talked to Rob Lapolis last week, and we had to give Mark the props, but to have him keep this going, like they went on that crazy winning streak in January, and now they're on another one. And if they, I'm sorry, I'm thrown off a little bit. If they continue this winning streak and they continue winning, it's going to be insane. So, okay. We gotta. The number one thing that Devils fans should be doing right now is rooting for the Binghamton Devils. They are the top dog in as far as are the teams we should be looking at. We should be looking at the Ottawa 67s because there's a lot of Devils in there, and that's fun. Graham Clark is back. Ball is on the top line there. I believe Nikita Otuk is on that top line with him. So there's a lot of Devils lore on there and a lot of prospects to pay attention to. A couple other prospects to root for. I know Riley Walsh's season just got ended. I believe that was also because of the coronavirus. Harvard just ended their hockey season, so they should absolutely sign him to play with the New Jersey Devils right now. I don't think he's NHL ready, but it obviously is not going to hurt, and they have to sign him before. They can't let him play another season at Harvard because he's going to leave then. But anyway, the number one team we should be watching is the Binghamton Devils. I'm going to apologize, folks. I am a little thrown off. I'm getting text messages about a couple things related to this coronavirus, so I'm dealing with a couple things right now. So I'm going to apologize, but the show must go on, as they say. Yeah. So, Sam, I'm glad you're back. I kind of got at a loss for words.
Yeah, it seemed like you got a little frustrated there when distracted there when was trying to get Jared on the phone right now. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I guess there's something coming over the newswire. But anyway.
I'm just going to be full exposure here is that it just came across that Tom Hanks apparently has the sickness. That's according to Deadline. So that's what threw me off. That's just kind of like a little too real for me. And he got the sickness in Australia, which is where I'm taking my honeymoon in 3 weeks. So things got a little real for me right there, Sam. And I'm just trying to get back on track. I'm just, my wife is texting me. I'm with you. I'm sorry. I'm being a professional. I got it. Just threw me off a little bit. It was just shoot. Okay. But you got Jared, right?
Okay. Yeah, I got Jared on the Nova Product Design Hotline from the Hockey News. We have Jared Clinton. Jared, this is Sam and Nick. How are you?
Not too bad. Yourself, guys?
It's been a crazy couple of weeks, Jared, and I'm glad we have you on because you can kind of take the national look at this and kind of take it away from the regional look that we're looking at just the New Jersey side, the tri-state area, the Devils specifically. Just kind of looking at the conversations that are happening and maybe tied into what the NBA is talking about. What do you think the NHL is going to do about this COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say. Right now, it seems like the league's happy to handle it on a case-by-case basis. And that's kind of just, everything's changing so quickly right now that it's impossible to really wrap your mind around what's happening and how anybody's going to approach this. Any specific league in North America, everyone's kind of trying to take different tacks or do their best to kind of approach the situation from a standpoint that's not too extreme, but also taking into account everyone's health, everyone's safety. So, it feels like we're going to reach a certain breaking point where the league has to step in and say, okay, listen, you know what? We're playing in front of nobody right now, in certain buildings. The spread of this is going on. We have to put the health and safety of everybody else first, and maybe, push back the season or throw some delays in here, or just, sacrifice the gate money that we would normally make and decide that we can take the loss on revenue and play in front of empty buildings for however long we need to until we kind of, there's something in place that can kind of mitigate the spread of this virus, and we can kind of get it under control. I think it's difficult to really know when that happens or when that comes, but and I don't want to speculate too much, but I think there's a certain point here where the league has to decide, more extreme steps to take, because I think we're going to reach that point one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, you see these one-off conferences and these one-off events like the South by Southwest and Coachella, and then like even the NCAA tournament. That's a very finite amount of events. But with the NHL, you're talking about 30 teams, 15. It could be 15 games in a night, or it's 31 teams now. Sorry, but 15 games in a night. And then if you start getting to the playoffs, I think that's when really hard decisions are going to come. And I mean, it feels like they're kind of far away, but it's really only like 4 weeks. And this sickness doesn't seem like it's kind of going anywhere. I mean, I was talking about before you got on, Jared, about how, because I was hearing a couple of really smart basketball people talking about the salary cap and how this could impact the salary cap. And just obviously there's bigger fish to fry, but we are a hockey podcast. A lot of people are using this to kind of think of the other things. And so I do want to just kind of talk about like, do you see this having far reaching effects that could trickle down into the playoffs?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, right now, Columbus, right? They're playing, or they've decided for the remainder of their home games, they're going to play in front of an empty building, and there is potential still for the Blue Jackets to make the playoffs if the ban doesn't get lifted by that point, by the time the playoffs roll around. Then we're looking at the Blue Jackets playing postseason games in front of an empty building. And the further we go with this, and you mentioned salary cap effects, and I think obviously, if we want to look at it from that side of things, there's going to be potential for those things to be affected because, economically, the league needs the money that they get at the gate. It's a very gate-driven league, more so than the other three major sports leagues, and just by that very fact, it stands to impact the salary cap because that's revenue that's lost. So. We had the projections earlier in the season, the $84 to $88.2 million kind of range that we were given for what the salary cap could look like next season. And, always it's kind of best to be more practical and be more conservative in what in kind of trying to estimate what it will actually land at, because, the players don't want to see escrow rise. So even if we were looking at $84 million as the low end of the cap, now it seems like there's potential for it to possibly even stay flat if there's a whole bunch of ticket revenue, because that money matters. Again, though, like, it is just so difficult to say because everything's changing right now so quickly, and the league could decide, to simply push things back, as I said, and try and wait this out and see what happens and go from there and maybe think, okay, well, if we push it back the start of the playoffs until the start of May, maybe, or we don't start the playoffs until the second week of May, maybe we've got a handle on this or a better idea of how to control the situation, and in doing so, we can play our playoff games and still get our gates. There's so many variables and so much that's unknown that it's difficult to really predict what's going to happen. But yeah, there are a whole lot of ways that this is going to affect the league, and it goes beyond. It does go beyond attendance. It can trickle down and affect the league moving forward as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard to even think about it because it's just. I mean, you have health officials saying it's going to get worse before it gets better, saying that it could take a year for a vaccine. So I just don't know. I don't know if pushing it back will help or if it'll hurt, or none of us know, but. Let's change gears. Let's talk about the Devils a little bit. The original reason why we had you on, I did want to talk about that just because it was in the minds of everybody. But let's talk about the New Jersey Devils. This is the New Jersey Devils podcast. I just want to kind of discuss, you wrote about Mackenzie Blackwood a couple weeks ago, and I just kind of wanted to talk about what you've seen from him and maybe touch on I saw The Athletic wrote that they have him as their front runner for the Calder Trophy. I think that's insane. I still think it's Quinn Hughes and Colin McCarr are both well ahead of him. But just tell me what you think. What have you seen from Mackenzie Blackwood, and tell me if he's going to hear his name come award season.
Yeah, I think here, to tackle the last part of that first, I think he can definitely be in the conversation as far as hearing his name come award season. And I think that third spot in the Calder race is very much up for grabs. We around this time of year, you're going to hear a lot of ideas and names thrown out for various awards, and sometimes I'm guilty of it at times too. We kind of overthink things and we make it more complicated than they need to be. And I think yes, there's a certain amount of anchoring that goes on in award races, and players kind of land in spots and at the top of conversations, and they stay there all season long. And that's maybe why Hughes and McCarr are so front of mind for the Calder. But Blackwood as a third nominee makes mountains of sense. He has been exceptional, and he has played extremely well for the Devils over the past few months here, especially. And I think in doing so, he's kind of put himself in that conversation, and with the third spot up for grabs, and a few players floating around that, but nobody really kind of latching on and taking hold of that spot. I don't see any reason he can't be in the conversation. As far as his play, I think the thing that we've really seen is that he's kind of settled in and it found kind of rounded into form in the sense that he's found a way to fit in a system that necessarily isn't the most conducive to goaltending success, which we see from time to time. But usually a goaltender who's put in that kind of situation, especially at his age, is bound for failure. It's the way it works. You're not. Again, the situation isn't very conducive to his own personal success, yet he's finding it. And I think that's the most important thing here is, not any goaltender, but there are many goaltenders who can succeed in a situation where, defensively they're playing behind a shell that really insulates them, and they don't face a lot of, high quality chances. They're really well protected by the defenders. They've got a stable of defensemen that are, top tier in the league, but that's not quite the case for Blackwood and the Devils. And I think just given his performance, when you compare it or view it through the prism of the situation, there's plenty of reason to think that, he's a goaltender who can be a legitimate starter for not just, this season or kind of flash in the pan type thing, but he can be a guy who they can rely on moving forward for several years, because he seems to have all the tools and he seems to fit into a system that, even when it's not, as favorable for goaltenders as some others, he can still flourish. And I think that's important to have a guy who can thrive under that kind of shot volume, that kind of shot quality, and that kind of pressure. It's not a difficult position to play when you're kind of in that situation. And I think the fact that he's been able to find that consistency at this point in the season and this early in his career is really impressive. And that's a very, very, very positive sign for the Devils moving forward.
Yeah, that's it's kind of sad, because I absolutely think that if we had this version of Mackenzie Blackwood at the beginning of the season, we'd be at least where the Florida Panthers are, kind of right on the outside looking in. I don't think they would have had to trade everybody away.
Right.
But what are you going to do? I think that these things happen for a reason, and the Devils have a possibility of 3 first-round picks as long as Vancouver gets the job done. So, you kind of have to look at both sides of it right now. But I just think it's a big deal that the Devils have that number one guy finally, and it looks like it's going to sustain. Last year was one thing when he went on that 10-game run, but now it's like a full season. He's got the save percentage up overall, and he just looks good on a nightly basis. So with Mackenzie Blackwood in tow and playing the way he is, do you think that this Devils team has to go through a full rebuild? Or do you think that since they have the goalie and they got Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes, they got PK Subban, they got pieces, Gusev, do you think that they can kind of fix this on the fly, kind of like the Rangers did?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see that there's a certain kind of team that needs to go through a full scale rebuild, and it's not the team that has had two first overall picks in pretty rapid succession, and has been able to turn those picks into two players who, granted Hughes hasn't had the rookie season that some expected, but he's been he's getting valuable experience right now, and everyone's certain he's going to have a bright future. So I don't think there's any reason to worry about him. And when you have two players like that to kind of build around, that gives you pillars down the middle that you kind of need, and that gives you the pieces down the middle that you need. So I don't really know, why you would even attempt a rebuild at this stage, because to attempt a rebuild is to, sacrifice the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of these guys' careers for no certainty in the future. So I think you just look at a few things. You look at the money that's available to the Devils moving forward. Not just next season, but the season after that. And there's a considerable amount of money there to start making some moves and making some plays for free agents, and trying to lure those players into the organization and sell them on what there is there. And we've seen in the past, Edmonton's obviously an example that some people might kind of roll their eyes at, but at the same time, and not to say that anybody on the Devils right now is Connor McDavid, because there's only one Connor McDavid, but there are players who are willing to go to situations where they see a brighter future. And I think right now, if you look at the Devils, you can see the foundations and at least some pieces in place that can be there to build that brighter future. And so you start to you start to look for players who want to come aboard, and you get players convinced that this is the place to be, and you build from there. I don't think scorched earth or blowing it up or doing anything like that is necessary. I think there's going to be a lot of retooling that needs to be done, especially on the blue line. And I think, with Zajac getting up there in age and his contract kind of coming to a close soon, and the rumors that are kind of circulating around Kyle Palmieri, I think you look at what your options are with those players and see if there are ways to recoup assets or to get somebody else into the organization who you can have for a longer time or have under team control for a long time to build around alongside your core players. But, once you have that core in place, that's the time to start building, not rebuilding. So I think the Devils are kind of in that spot right now. And that's they should be kind of comfortable in that spot right now, because it's going to take time, but they have the assets they need to kind of start that movement forward.
So, yeah, I mean, I like all that you're saying. That tells me I don't have to watch awful hockey for another 2 or 3 years, because that's not my favorite. I'm not gonna lie. Kind of want to switch to Binghamton. Devils are kind of the best thing that's happening for this team right now. They're winning. They got themselves into a playoff spot after being in last place back in December. So obviously the Devils kind of purged the roster of NHL talent at the deadline, and that opens up the door for players like Jari Kuokkanen, Michael McLeod, Jesper Boquist. So in your opinion, do you think it's better for those players, McLeod, Kuokkanen, Bastian, like players like that, who you might, like the first, the second, the third round picks over the past couple of years, do you think it's better for them to get NHL experience this year on a team that's probably going to lose more games than it wins? Or is it better to put them in a playoff race in the AHL where they could kind of get that winning mentality?
That's a really tough question. It's a really it's a really kind of nebulous question to answer, because there is no right answer, right? But I think the thing that's important to note is, if you have those guys at least tagged to play in the AHL and they've been sent down, and that option is open up for them, I think that gives you a multitude of options with those players, right? I think what's important and the kind of the thing to keep an eye on is to keep an eye on whether or not those players are going to be available to your AHL team when that time rolls around. And if they are, then you can have kind of the best of both worlds in a sense, because if you need them to be up with the Devils, or you want them to be up with the Devils for a little bit to kind of get that foot in the door, get a taste of what it's like to be in the NHL, and kind of learn the ropes, even if it is on a bad team for now, get accustomed to the speed, or see the difference in the speed, or the difference not only in the movement speed, but the way you have to the speed with which you have to think the game and move the puck and how fast you need to make decisions. I think those are all important things that a player needs to learn. And if they learn those things, even if it's on a losing team for a dozen games, it gives them the chance to then take those skills and work on them not only in the summer but also in the AHL when they go down for the postseason. So I think kind of balancing those two things and leaving available that option to send those players back is in the Devils' best interest, and they've done that quite well because getting those players down and getting them to get some experience is what's going to be important. I think winning at any level is important. And I remember one time a player said to me that one of the things that every player should learn is how to dominate at every level. And I think getting the chance to win at every level is just as important because it teaches you what's necessary to win. So there's positives and negatives to both, but if you can give each player a little taste of both, or certain players a little taste of both, it's incredibly beneficial.
And Jared, real quick, just kind of going back to our original point, and I just kind of want to get your rapid reaction to this. The NBA just suspended their season, so they're taking the drastic move of just putting all games on hold immediately. It looks like Rudy Gobert tested positive for coronavirus, so now we have an American player. Do you think this changes how the NHL is going to react?
I think absolutely. I think once that happens, once one major league does it, it sets a precedent for the rest of the major leagues. And obviously we're going to have to see what happens from here. But if the NBA is taking that step and taking that precaution, I don't see any way now the NHL can't take similar precautions. Especially because the last thing you want to do is, everything's about optics at a certain point, and I think the last thing the league will want to do right now is keep its season going and have somebody, get ill or you contract the virus because they've been around these things when there was all these bans in place or the chance to stop this. So, we'll see what happens next. But yeah, I'm kind of shocked to hear that, but good on the NBA for taking into account everyone else's health and not just chasing a buck.
Well, Jared, we're going to have you back during the offseason because this was not what we expected to talk about. We expected to have a fun, lighthearted conversation about how terrible the Devils were. Instead we had to talk about pandemics and suspending seasons and empty arenas. So, we're going to work that out. We're going to have you back during the offseason. Maybe around draft time. Maybe you can help us out with these 3 first-round picks. But for now, I really appreciate you coming on a very difficult day and kind of a hard topic. You did it really well. So I really appreciate you coming on, Jared.
All right. Thanks, Tom, man.
That is Jared Clinton from the Hockey News giving us his expertise. What's going on with the Devils and was that just breaking news?
Yeah, we broke news in the Let's Go Devils podcast. Adrian Wojnarowski, I gotta give the the credit to the correct person. Adrian Wojnarowski, is that how you say it? I don't know, whatever. He's the one who broke it. He just said the NBA has suspended the season. Rudy Gobert, Shams reported that Rudy Gobert tested positive coronavirus. Tom Hanks has tweeted and confirmed that he and his wife, Rita Wilson, have tested positive coronavirus. So this is now, Sam, this does change things because before it was a bunch of faceless, nameless people that had the coronavirus, and now it's Tom freaking Hanks, and it's the NBA season. And I think NCAA basketball, I had to double check this. Somebody messaged me saying that NCAA basketball might be on the chopping block too. I got to double check that. But if they're going to cancel March Madness,
they did. I think they did. I think that was a few hours ago, if I'm not mistaken, when that news. So, but yeah, that's the first domino is the NBA. Will the NHL follow suit? I would believe so. After all, the NHL has practice of stopping the season in the middle of the season back in the early 90s when I believe the players went on strike or something like that, or they were locked out. I don't remember back then, but it was back in the early 90s. Teams who are gunning for playoff spots, and all of a sudden, work stoppage in the middle of it. But obviously, these are for different reasons, and you have to respect what the NBA is doing. I would expect the NHL to follow suit. But Jared made a great point about the gate receipts. This is a gate-driven league, revenue-wise. This is going to probably hurt more the NHL than the other three professional sports leagues. So, it's hard to say. But again, as of now, it's just certain individual teams taking their steps. But I would expect Gary Bettman to make a decision really soon. What to do. These are not easy decisions at all. I mean, a lot is at stake, but when you talk about human life and the world coming together and trying to stop this virus from spreading, I would expect that maybe coming in the next couple of days, Nick. But I'm still heading down to Florida, taking a direct route via the General Wu. What's
Florida
that?
Florida for once is the one who doesn't have it. I mean, we have a couple, but we're not like the pandemic. Like, we're not Jersey. They, in New York, they had to corner off an entire town. They're just bringing the National Guard. So, I feel like we're like the safest people right now. And I know that's not true. That's not a medical thing. So please don't quote me on that. Please, please, please. It's just me saying that you're safe in Florida. If everybody wants to come, we'll bunker in my house. I have cats. They're cool. They act like dogs. It's fine.
I've been to your house. It's a very nice place.
Yeah, we have room.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to get our player for tonight. He's going to get his butt whooped in. But are you ready to go solo this time? Because last time when I was getting Jared, I felt helpless because I was on the phone with him, but also listening to you in the other ear. Okay, all right. I'm going to do the switch over now.
Okay, so yeah, I mean this is it. This was like tonight was the night that things changed when I saw the defenseman of Juventus had the coronavirus, and that's still a little more out of sight, out of mind for us. We could blame it on Europe. We could say that it's something that's happening over there. It's something that they have to deal with. An NBA player got coronavirus today, and we have no flipping clue how. He didn't go anywhere. He hasn't been out of the country. He hasn't gone to Italy. He hasn't gone to China. He hasn't gone to Iran or any of these places. He is just sitting in America, traveling with his team in a very controlled environment. He's in this bubble, this NBA bubble. And NHL players are the same way. They're in this bubble. And in that bubble, you're supposed to be safe at all times. Now, he seems like he's going to be fine based on the early reports. It seems like they caught it. They're going to take care of it. As you know, younger people who have normal immune systems are okay. So, as an elite athlete, he's above that. So those are the types of people that aren't going to have to worry about this as much. But Rudy Gobert now has to look at every single person he has visited in the past 5 days. If he saw his mom has to get tested. If his mom saw his grandparents, their grandparents to get tested, and that's where it gets scary. If somebody has a sick sister, if somebody has a sick, mom, if somebody has a sick dad, if you're just out in public, if you're going to these arenas, an athlete has this. The biggest actor in the world, Tom Hanks, has this. This just showed that no one is immune. Nobody is safe from this because we just don't know what it is. We don't know what this is. We have no flippin' idea what the coronavirus really is. We have an idea because we've been studying it for 2 months, but we don't know how to stop it from spreading. We're just kind of guessing. But I'd rather guess on the side of caution and the side of safety and lose a little entertainment value and lose a couple experiences in my life that I can replace later than putting others at risk, because that's not something I want to live with, and I'm sure it's not something y'all want to live with, and I'm just sure it's too much right now. But again, things got real tonight. And within the last 45 minutes that me and Sam have been on this podcast, things went from bad to worse.
Certainly did. Certainly did. But right now, we're going to be...
what else to say, Sam.
Well, right now, we're going to have a little bit of a distraction because somebody's going to get their butt whooped. From Pucks and Pitchforks, he's a big contributor. Love his articles. The one and only Vinny Parisi. Vinny, are you ready to play the game? How are you, man?
Oh, guys, I'm doing good. It's just, it's a little bit of a scary time we're living in right now. But as I do, I try to bring a little light to the world. So let's get it on.
All right, so I kind of spoiled this, as everybody knows, because all hockey fans obviously watched The Bachelor. But The Bachelor finale was last night, and The Bachelor's mom, knowing nothing about these girls, made an absolute opinion on one of them. And I found that kind of funny. So we're going to play a game today called The Bachelor. I'm going to give you 3 sets of stats. And just based on that small amount of information, you're not even going to know the player's name. You're just going to know these counting stats. And you have to tell me which one of them has the best Corsi 4 percentage. So just like Peter the Pilot, you're just going to make a guess forever.
All right. Let's do it. You go first,
So
Vinny.
I'm going to have you both guess all 3 options. Just because that's the fastest way I could have made this work. So, Vinny, I'm going to go with you first. But, Sam, you're also guessing this one. So, Vinny,
okay.
The statistics are player number 1 has 8 goals, 23 assists for 31 points. He plays just under 23 minutes per game, and he has a 7% shot percentage. Player number 2 has 7 goals, 11 assists. He's a minus 21. He plays 22 minutes and 7 seconds per game, and is a 4.6 shot percentage. Player number 3 is... Where'd he go? Oh, here it is. Player number 3 has 4 goals and 17 assists for 21 points. He's a minus 8. He plays 17 minutes and 55 seconds per game, and he's got a 6.5% shooting percentage. So, Vinny, does player number 1, player number 2, or player number 3 have the best Corsi 4 percentage?
I think I know who 1 and 2 are. I couldn't tell you who 3 is. So I'm going to go with player number 1.
All right, Sam, are you also going with player number 1, or you think 2 or 3 is the best option?
Number 2.
Okay, Vinny takes round 1. Vinny, do you want to tell us who 1 and 2 are?
I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe 1 is Damon Severson and 2 is Jack Hughes.
So you got number 1 right. Number 1 is Damon Severson. Number 2 was PK Subban. And number 3 was Will Butcher. So basically the only 3 starting worthy defensemen still on the team. All right, so we're going to go to round 2. Sam, you're going to go first on this one. Player number 1. He has, I'm just going to do this by name so it's easier to find. Player number 1 has 9 goals, 16 assists for 25 points. He's a minus 12 with a 12.5% shot percentage. And he plays 17 minutes a night over 69 games. Player number 2 is 25 goals and 20 assists for 45 points over 65 games. He's a minus 4, but he has a 16.1% shooting percentage, playing 17 minutes a night. And then player number 3 has 13 goals and 31 assists, but he's a minus 15 over 14 minutes and 42 seconds per night on 66 games this season. Sam, are you going with player number 1, player number 2, or player number 3?
Number 3.
Vinny?
Like same as last time, I know who 2 and 3 are. Couldn't tell you who the others are. I'm going to go with player number 3.
All right, I thought I threw you guys out, but you're both correct. Vinny, do you want to tell us who player number 3 is?
Is player number 3 one Nikita Gusev?
That's correct. Nikita Gusev has the higher Corsi 4 percentage with a 49.21. Kyle Palmieri was player number 2. He has a 47.0 Corsi 4 percentage. And then possible future captain Travis Zajac was player number 1. 46.91 Corsi 4 percentage. All right. Final round. Sam, I'm going to let you go. I'll let Vinny go first this time. So, Sam, you can kind of pick for the tie. Player number 1. Sorry, I lost it. Player number 1 has 7 goals.
Sorry, that's if Vinny picks the right one. He wins. If you think about it, sudden death for me. Yeah.
Player number 1 has 7 goals and 14 assists for 21 points, but an inexplicable minus 26 over 15 minutes and 52 seconds of ice time and a 5.7 shooting percentage over 61 games. Player number 2 has 14 goals and 22 assists, 36 points over 58 games. He's playing 18 minutes and 4 seconds per game. And he has an 11.4% shooting percentage. And then finally, player number 3 has 16 goals and 16 assists for 32 points, a minus 6 over 60 games, a 15.8 shooting percentage with just under 14 minutes a night. Vinny, are you on player number 1, player number 2, or player number 3?
I'm going to go with player number 2.
Okay. Sam, what are you going to go with?
Going with player number 1.
You're both wrong. It was player number 3. That means Vinny's the winner.
I had a chance there.
You did.
No.
You did.
No.
Your bachelor.
All right.
Bachelor number 3. I guess this probably would have worked better as the dating game, but whatever. We're here. Bachelor number 3 is Jesper Bratt, 48.33 Corsi 4 percentage. Number 2 was one Nico Hischier. And number 1, Sam, you rode your horse on Jack Hughes, but he did not take you down the Old Town Road. And he rode his horse, and it can't no mo.
But Vinny, I gotta give credit's due.
Sam Wu. That was a fun game.
Oh, Vinny, you're still there? Oh, we lost Vinny.
Oh, we lost Vinny. I guess.
Yeah, we lost Vinny.
You don't have to hear his victory lap.
Yeah, I swear to you, I didn't mute him or anything.
You're fine. So Kevin McGran with the Maple Leafs says that the NHL will have a statement on the rest of the remainder of the season tonight. And he says he'd be shocked if he didn't follow the NBA's lead and postpone games. So maybe don't get in your car tonight.
Yeah. Uh-oh. I may have to stay here for a breaking news podcast.
This escalated quickly.
Wow. I'm getting my car anyway.
Somebody mentioned that the NHL is going to hold a lottery to see who's declared the Cup winner. So I guess that means the Arizona Coyotes are going to win the Stanley Cup. Congratulations to them, the first one ever.
Oh boy.
Well, Sam.
All right. Well,
sad podcast. It's not one of my favorites. I'm not going to lie to you, but all right.
Well, I don't know if we can do a breaking podcast if I'm in the car, but you'll hear it. You'll hear from us.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
Well, you know what? I can't wait to hear the recording of this podcast afterwards when we drop it in, because this is like a world event that we're dealing with. And just to hear, hear you when you were going solo before we got Jared on, when all that news just hit you all at once. That's just telling you the times. You put it in a time capsule, and 1,000 years from now, when they talked about, the coronavirus, hitting, the earlier part of, the century, it's sign of the times. What's going on right now, and I felt your frustration, and the shock of it all.
I mean, I have to apologize because I'm usually better than that. Usually, even when I lose my train of thought, I can get it back. But it was just a couple things right at once, and I was just trying to process and also talk to the people and figure out what to tell the people. And actually, Darren Dreger just said that the league won't suspend play, at least not immediately.
Really?
I can't keep up. As somebody who writes about this, I can't keep up. So I don't know.
Yeah.
One step at a time, Sam.
Yep. One step at a time. All right. Well, we'll keep you posted.
Either way, that probably means no fans. So I don't know. We'll make that decision when it comes.
Yep. Well,
all right. Talk to you
you'll hear it first. Stay safe, everyone. Till next time, let's go Devils.